What's up, everybody? Josh at Evoke Bike here, and again, we're back talking about cross. All right, we're gonna jump right into this. We've got block 2 for what you should be doing. We talked about block 1 for what you should be doing right now. Once you get through that block, then what are you gonna do? That's what we're gonna talk about now. Again, these training targets are based on the demands of cross racing. There's so many ways to approach this. These are just my recommendations. This is what I give to my athletes. This is what I myself do. So yeah, hopefully you take something away from here. The goal in this block is going to be peak power, high-end anaerobic gains, and we're doing that through some variable efforts, but some straight up VO2 max efforts as well. Whereas before in block 1, it was more like repeatability. So yeah, let's jump into it. You're going to see the pattern here is throughout all these blocks, and the next block too, we're going to do block 3, is going to be, you're going to be continuously working on those high-end efforts. We got to keep the intensity up. Those are the demands of cross races. And then we're going to keep breaking down, particular parts of cross races into little training bits. And then we'll wrap those all up into some race simulations. And we'll touch on that today. These efforts specifically for this block, the other block too, but really for these are really hard, and these are physical and you're gonna have to go to like different physical and mental depths for these particular training sessions. So just note that these take some respect, and there's definitely some recovery that goes along with these. Your week shouldn't be it should not, this isn't for this block, this is for training in general, but don't try to cram all of these into a week or a couple weeks. Do 2 sessions a week, space these out, give yourself recovery days. More is not always more, less is more. So, and if you have any questions about that, shoot me an email, we can talk about this stuff. But yeah, so the topics we're going to cover today: FRC, FTP, aka max aerobic, aka VO2 max. FRC, which we touched on before, but now we're going to go more into the peak power there with those max efforts, whereas before we touched on the repeatability there. PMax, we're talking about your max power output. We're talking sprints, we're talking starts specifically, and then we're going to touch more on your skills, your running, but we're going to kind of, rather than doing we went through that block of getting used to the skills, getting back into the routine of, doing remounts, dismounts. Now we're going to add some speed to that, some intensity to those sessions, some intensity to your running. And then we're going to wrap it all up. We're going to talk about some race simulations so you can mix it all together. Okay, again, we're going to touch on some endurance right from the start. That strength work that you're hopefully been doing, some core work, keep those sessions up. Like I said, you shouldn't be doing hard efforts all week long. So sprinkle in your endurance sessions, sprinkle in some longer rides, maybe some shorter endurance rides. Yeah, again, you shouldn't be doing high intensity efforts all week long, especially with these efforts. Like I said, they are hard, and you need that volume. In regards to your strength training, I would keep that up, maybe bring it back down to 1 day a week. I don't know how many days you're doing now, and then maybe dial back the intensity a little bit. Maybe just do some body weight work, maybe just do some plyometric work, stuff like that. So you're getting a lot of intensity on the bike. You don't need so much off the bike. Okay, FRC, FTP, aka VO2 max, max aerobic, whatever you're using and whatever you call it. The way I like to approach this is through variable efforts, just like how you respond in a cross race. If you're going from anaerobic to aerobic to aerobic to anaerobic, you're going back and forth, you get those spikes, that lactate spikes in the bloodstream. We need to work on using that as a fuel source. So you're not just overloading your legs and then in the first few laps, you're like, I got to back off. So let's practice those sessions so you get used to those efforts in the race. The different ways we're going to approach this, you're going to do some longer VO2 efforts. So we're getting away from like strictly FRC. This is why it's like that max aerobic range. But then we'll also do some combination efforts there. And then as we get into the next FRC, that'll be like more specific, really hard efforts. That's the next topic we'll talk about. But so yeah, that's what we're doing here, trying to use that lactate as a fuel source. And kind of like a race scenario here would be like sticking with that front group. You're on that first lap, you got your PMax start, you got your FRC, and then you're going back, you're dialing that back into like a max aerobic range so you can stay with that front group on the first lap, maybe the first 2 laps, first couple of laps. The pace will die down, but yeah. Okay, so some specific workouts that you can do to work on this. Again, classic VO2 max, say 5 by 5 minutes. We're talking like 115% FTP. This would be like 5 on, 5 off. These are, again, super hard sessions. That's like a classic. 2, this is like one of my favorite workouts. This is what I like to call an over on. So we're getting variable here. This is like you're doing 120% FTP. I mean, it depends what that percentage is. If you're going like, say you were doing like extensive or intensive anaerobic for where we're starting off. And then you're going, say you're doing that for like 30 seconds to like 2 minutes to 30 seconds, variable, percentage of FTP. And then you're going straight into FTP. I keep these shorter, whereas before in the first block, we were doing like those supra FTP efforts, which were like straight up FTP or like 105%. And those were like 5 to 8 to 10 minutes. I like to keep these like 4 or 5 minutes max, and then doing a couple of these because these are really hard. So it's a lot of times we refer to these as hard starts, but I make these a little bit longer rather than like a sprint. You can do a sprint, like I said, but maybe like 30 seconds to a minute, and then you're going into 4 minutes at threshold. And I would do 7 to 10 minutes between, getting the full rest. Okay, the next big area here to work on would be FRC. Like I said before, we worked on repeatability. Now we're going into the peak power. This is when you're getting those figurative punches thrown at you in the races. Guys are attacking on those punchy climbs. Guys are attacking out of corners, on the straights. So having the intensity in your legs and getting used to going deep on those efforts. Again, there's the physical part here. There's also that mental part of getting used to going deep, being in the red, and then responding, recovering, knowing when to recover. So a workout here, this is pretty basic. 10-second all out. This would be one workout, not continuous, but you're doing 10 seconds as hard as you can, 20 seconds as hard as you can, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 50 seconds, a minute. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 efforts, and you're spaced that out, full recovery between each, 7 to 10 minutes, even more than that. And you do this in like, you could even throw this into like a longer endurance ride, but you're going all out here. These are shorter FRC efforts, but you're draining, you're emptying the tank as much as you can. So yeah, that would be something for the peak power part of that FRC. Now we're going into PMax. Now I like to do combination workouts here for these PMax. I think it's a great way of working on your starts and then also working on those high end, those high end watts. So again, this is like those attacks again. These are like the shorter attacks out of the turns, out of corners, stuff like that. So a workout here would be, PMax is like your sprints. So a workout would be, I like to do a combination of low cadence starts. So get yourself in a higher gear, and then you're spinning from like, say, 0 up to like 60 RPM, doing that high torque effort. And then also in that session, doing some normal starts. And the length of those sprints would be maybe, I don't know, 10 to 20 seconds, maybe on the longer side for those high torque efforts. Then you can do the normal starts. And these I would definitely do for the normal ones on your cross bike. You can do the other ones too. Like doing all these workouts would be great on your cross bike. We talked before. If you can put some slicks on your cross bike, get out on the road, or even do these on the grass. We'll touch on this next with the skills session. But yeah, doing some specific starts, getting used to where your pedal needs to be. What gear are you in? Are you typically you're starting on tarmac for all these races? Some races you do start on the grass. But get used to starting on the tarmac, starting on the grass, what your gearing is, getting on the tops. I don't really recommend anybody start in the drops. I know some people do, but I think it's better you can get up to you get that torque up better in the tops. And then a little pro tip here, I like to, another way of practicing starts. These aren't PMax efforts, this isn't a PMax exercise, but for your openers, I like to do those as starts. So do from a standing start, go for 10 seconds, like kind of hard, and then back that down to like whatever you're doing for like if you're doing a 30-second opener or something like that. So maybe like a little less than VO2 max, maybe like 115%, something like that for like 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and do like 5 of those. Get the legs going on like a Friday going into a busy weekend, a busy race weekend. So yeah, I think it's just another way to get some easy practice in for your starts and double up with an opener. Okay, skills and running. Now, we worked on before, kind of getting back into the season, you're getting into cross. Now in this block, we're going to add some speed and some intensity. for adding some intensity to your running intervals, I like to do like some fartlek style intervals, which is like, you know, varying the speed on these runs. You don't need to go out and crush a 10K going as hard as you can. Like it's unnecessary for what you need for a cross race. But you can go out and do like your 20-minute run and throw in some 20-second sprints, throw in some 20-second efforts, maybe doing 20 on, 20 off for like, I don't know, a couple minutes. And then throwing some sprints at the end, throwing some sprints at the beginning. They don't have to be long runs. Do your 20, 30-minute runs. You're not going to necessarily, you're not going to win from a run, but you don't want it to be one of your limiters so that your heart rate spikes and then you can't recover. So just get used to doing running, doing some efforts. And then also in these running efforts, do these on mixed terrain. Go up hills, do them on grass, do them in your cross shoes. Like at the end, maybe do this as a warm-up. Do like a little 15-minute jog when you get to your warm-up spot, or your cross training spot. Do a little jog in your cross shoes. Or you can do these in your running shoes too, maybe early in the morning, whenever you're doing them. And go up hills, go down hills, go across hills, go upstairs. Usually you don't have to run downstairs, but I have done races where you had to run downstairs, so maybe run downstairs. Be cautious, of course. Yeah, work on those different things. And then for your skills, now, again, we're working on that being smooth. We still want you to be smooth. We still want you to have proper form and do things correctly. But now start adding some intensity there. Hitting the barriers at 180 BPM, at your max heart rate, whatever that is much different than hitting it at, 140, 150 when like you're working on your practice. Hit those with speed. Hit the corners at speed. Hit your shouldering practices at speed. And a great way to do this, another little pro tip here, if you're doing all the workouts we just talked about, do those on your cross bike. Do them at your practice spot. Do them on grass. Hit those corners at speed. Track normalized power. Or if you're going all out, like just don't worry about it. Like don't worry about like, oh, I have to go super hard for 1 minute. Go 30 seconds into a turn, coast, hit that turn as hard as you can. And then do 30 seconds afterwards, like time in zone. I know like Brendan stresses that in other workouts, but yeah, it doesn't have to be specific. Like you're never going to have a race where like it's perfect. You're going 30 seconds and then you have a rest, then you're going 40 seconds. Do what you can. These races are so variable and your training can be exactly the same. Another little pro tip here, if you want to throw in like some dismounts and remounts at high efforts at those increased, like it's hard to go out and like, hey, I'm going to do strictly dismounts and remounts and I want to go hard. Do your workout and then at the end of your 1 minute, your 30-second effort, every time jump off and then remount. So your heart rate's up there, you're getting a little, doubling down on this, whatever your workout is. And yeah, you're practicing those high heart rate dismounts, remounts, shouldering. Maybe shoulder it for a little bit and run for a little while. Just another way to double down, get more out of these training sessions. And lastly, race simulations. Hopefully you're doing your cross practices like once a week. I know that I'm saying like strictly skills practices with some other people. Find your CX friends, find those dudes who are sending you those crosses coming memes, and tie all of these workouts together. And another thing that we haven't touched on is work on passing, work on getting past, work on closing the door through the turns, work on little bumping elbows, like going through obstacles with a group. And if you set up a little cross course, find out where the pinch points are. Know when you need to burn a match to, okay, hey, like there's a 180 coming up and it's just like this tricky off camber or whatever it is. And I need to be on the front, or I need to be in the first 5 guys because there's going to be a hold up and like those top people are going to get away. So know where those areas are, practice that. Yeah, so we covered a lot here. I hope you guys like these videos. If you do, like, subscribe, shoot me an email with questions. If you have other ways of going about this, I'd love to hear those. And then we're going to do another block next week in regards to what you should be doing once the season starts. So you're getting a ton of intensity during the weekends from the races. Like, what should you be doing on Monday? What should be on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? We'll go through, again, just recommendations for what you can see what works for you. It's like a trial and error. Always training is the stimulus, getting that response. So see what works, see what doesn't work. And yeah, so thank you guys for watching, and see you guys next week.